G'day once again everyone. Okay, as promised, here is my video on why things are seen. I know some other people have done stuff similar, but I'm going to try and break it down into basically the rules of everything. So this is a video that's going to be able to serve you well for both you seeing people, but also from the perspective of thinking about what you're doing that might enable other players to see you before you see them. So, as I mentioned in the last video, it all gets broken down into primarily 6 categories, the 5 S's and an M. And those S's were shape, silhouette, surface, shadow, and spacing, with the final category being movement, which is the M, or as I mentioned, some people are now calling it sudden movement. Okay, so let's break them down in a little bit more detail. First category, shape. One thing you've got to be aware of is that pretty much in nature, barring a very few exceptions, and when those exceptions do occur, believe me, you notice them, almost nothing is symmetrical. You won't find many man-made shapes either, such as squares or triangles and that sort of stuff. So anything that looks out of the ordinary will stand out. Now, being human beings, particularly when you're playing a game like this where your biggest threat is any other human being shaped object, being another player or being a zombie, your mind is already geared to looking for that shape. So when you see that shape, it's an alarm for your brain. You might have only seen it out of the corner of your eye, but it's something that gets your senses heightened and you'll start to pay more attention to it. So when you are trying to hide from someone, that's why it's a great idea getting into a bush, getting into something that breaks up your outline. Hence why the ghillie suit does work so well, obviously not when you're in the open, but when you are hiding in bushes or around trees and so on, because you do break up into the background and the outline of you, particularly when you're crouched or laying, is broken down and it doesn't look as human-like. Now, the next category was silhouette. The first thing that comes to mind when you think of silhouette is when, say, you see a player standing on top of a building or on top of a hill, and that is the classic example of what not to do. If you're on top of something, get down low on your guts, you make a less of a profile, and again, coming into that shape, your shape is harder to distinguish as being a person. But it's also got to be considered when you talk about what you're standing against. Again, the human shape is so distinguishable to most people. If you are standing against the side of a wall or against the side of a house, you will again be silhouetted against the background that you are standing against. Now, from the other perspective, you can use that to your advantage, trying to reduce your silhouette by making sure that you have something behind you so that they're not seeing light when you're in the shadow or shadow when you're in the light. Those are 2 big categories. We'll talk about shadow more in detail, but again about making sure your silhouette does not give you away easily, and what to look for when looking for a person's silhouette. Now, one of my favorites, surface. Surface used to be called shine, but they replaced it after they realized that it actually needed to represent more, because the 5 S's don't really include color. And it also doesn't include texture. Now, I'll go into those in more detail in a sec, but surface is this broad, all-encompassing area. The first one being shine. Now, even your skin will shine. In the game, as we found out in the first Ashes, when we took our pants off, our skin literally glowed in the game, and it enabled the Poms to get some very easy shots on us. When we were doing the training for the second Ashes, we were actually using the hunter jackets until we realized that over about 100 meters or so, there's a glitch with them where the sleeves disappear, so your skin shows from underneath it. So that was something that we immediately said we need to change jackets, and we changed to the M65 jackets because they provided a much better natural color as opposed to our shiny white arms shining through from underneath our hunter jackets. When it comes to color, very obvious. Try to pick clothing that's going to blend into the environment, and take that back to when you're spawning in. Spawn in wearing black, green or brown, even dark blue colored clothes. Dark blue, particularly at night time, blends in very, very well. Black at night time will actually silhouette you, whereas if you're wearing a very dark, almost midnight blue colour, you'll blend in a lot better on the skyline. So bear that in mind. Now, I also mentioned surface. The backpack I'm wearing in this video, the Boulder backpack, when you look at it, it actually has a bit of a shine to it, as opposed to a hunting backpack, which is a more matte texture. It doesn't have a buff that glosses and gives it away. So be aware of that. Even with the Kevlar helmets, you'll notice the game actually does render in a little bit of a shine patch from where the sun is. So you've got to take all this into consideration. Eliminate shine, eliminate colour, and you'll blend in a lot better, particularly when you're wearing a nice, more matte textured backpack like the hunting backpack, or even the improvised backpacks as well. Now, I mentioned shadow. This is so important, this one, and it's one that a lot of people overlook, particularly as in the game you can turn shadow on and off. I like to run with it on. I just find it makes my videos look so much more appealing because I'm trying to run it at the highest possible settings that I can. I love how beautiful the game is, but it does work against you having your shadows on, and a lot of players are aware of it. Commander Pixel does mention it in one of his videos. I'll make a link to it below. Having shadows on does make it harder to spot someone, and that's something that you can try to use to your advantage as well, but don't count on it because a lot of people now are running with their shadows off. With the shadow, it actually darkens you quite a bit, so again it changes your skin where it looks lighter, your clothes where it looks lighter. If it's darkened, it doesn't look as normal as you're used to seeing it. So you can use shadows to hide you to almost as good effect as hiding in a bush or hiding in the grass when someone's at close range. But you've just got to remember that there's a lot of the more technical aspects of this game which will eliminate you being able to use shadow to your advantage, and it could be a big disadvantage for you if you are using the shadows on in your settings. So that's a personal preference. Me, I like it on, but I know a lot of people out there just don't or can't have that on their system. So please take that into consideration. Now, spacing, the last of the S's. In nature, nothing is regular in the spacing of it. It's always irregular. There's always, a tree here, a tree there. Only when man-made objects are starting to appear do you see things evenly spaced. Don't know, there's just something strange about us humans. We like to have things very orderly and in fashion. So you'll see power lines evenly spaced apart from each other, power poles evenly spaced apart from each other. But in nature, you just don't see that. Trees don't grow evenly spaced unless they're planted by a human. So always be very, very careful when it comes to spacing. Make your cells irregular. Don't have your cells every 5 meters or so on. It's a simple little one, probably not going to be very applicable to the game, but it's just a nice little aside to know. In nature, nothing is regular. Now for the big one, movement. For this video, I've actually chosen to use someone else's video, my good friend TLA Vanguard. The video name is up in the top right. If you haven't watched all of this, you really, really need to. This is just a short excerpt from it, just showing pretty much how to move perfectly and not have someone know that you're coming. It was an amazing video. When I watched it, I just thought, you cocky bugger, but absolutely brilliant. He stayed on his guts the entire time, stayed down low. Unless someone was scoped in looking at that bit of grass, they would have had no idea he was coming. And let me tell you, as you can see, the guy who he was chasing had no idea he was coming either. Be aware of it though. Running out in the open like that guy in the ghillie suit was, it draws attention. He made a massive profile. So movement, particularly sudden movement, is always going to be a big giveaway. If you can, get on your guts. Yes, there's issues with the grass rendering in the game and so on, but you know about that, so you can deal with it. If you're aware of it, then it's not going to impact on you so much. It's when you're not aware of it. Yeah. Always factor in that every time that you're moving, particularly in this game where we're sprinting nearly every single place we go, be aware that you are creating a massive signature. It's probably the #1 biggest thing that will give you away in this game. Forget color, forget everything else. Movement, the eye is drawn to it every time there's movement. And when it's movement of a shape it recognizes, you can guarantee they're going to spot you. Okay, so the little clip that I put in, it pretty much covered nearly every single category of the 5 S's and an M as to why I see things. Now, as you can see here, very early on in the video, I noticed what I thought initially was a zombie raging, just due to the silhouette that it was making against the background. But as I got closer, I was quickly able to ascertain that it was in fact a ghillie geared player. The ghillie suit really wasn't doing what the bloke was hoping it would do. I do hope I shot him, by the way, because I did hear him cry out, but that was probably just me before I died. But what you've got to be aware of is wearing the right clothes for the environment that you're in. Now that guy's wearing a full ghillie suit running across an open field. He stood out like dog's balls, literally. It was a shocking choice of clothing for him to be using in that environment. But as you can see, now that he's moved into a more shadowy environment, a more forested environment, he pretty much disappeared. He obviously stopped somewhere in one of these trees. I do think up on the little crest that I run over, but I had no idea where he's gone. So the clothing he was wearing was much better suited. His choice of running across that open field, absolute suicide. If it had been a better player, because I'm no great shake at the game, but they probably could have taken him out at distance with, I did have a PSO scope, but yeah, for whatever reason at the time, I chose to try to get closer to engage. But it did kind of work out well for them in the team, because it made me focus all of my attention on him and not be looking out for, well, what I hinted at in the last video. So hands up if you saw where the person was who shot me. Anyone? Let's take a quick look at the video now, and I'll play it through fully, and then I will play it and stop it at the point where I could have seen the bloke who was shooting at me from behind when I was trying to take out that sniper once I got up again. So let's continue it from here and see if you can spot it this second time round.
I have negative contacts. Zombie up in the trees.
He has just disappeared.
Probably under a tree.
Shots on me, shots on me.
Oh,
No idea where from.
he's in the tree.
Where were they from? Did you see it?
He's heading towards down back to where we came from.
Walk me onto him, Charlie. I got eyes on him.
Hang on, mate. I'm getting hit by a zombie.
Two, I'm down.
I can't see anyone now. Give me a second. Oh, I'm unconscious, man. I'm dead. That was fun.
What got you?
I know. I was getting killed by a zombie. Yeah, probably the zombie.
Damn one-hit wonders.
Yeah, could have been anyone, mate. I honestly don't know.
Okay, so let's rewind that. Bring it back to the beginning and pay attention to the top left corner. You can see the sniper guy on the right still. Here I am getting up slowly off the ground. Now look directly ahead of me. In those bushes is actually another guy who I think is wearing a full ghillie as well. He is positioned perfectly. He's got bushes behind him preventing him from being silhouetted. He's wearing the right colour clothing, again, preventing me from easily having seen him. Whereas his friend there, he really stood out, like I said before, like dog's balls. Thankfully for them, that made me focus all of my attention on him. Shooting from the hip didn't really work out too well in my favour, because the other fella calmly was able to take me out again. He was actually the one who dropped me the first time as well. You see him clearly leaning slightly, one shot, bang, I went down, but I was able to get up again. So we'll bring it back again, a little bit in slow-mo this time. And here we go, in full time. I didn't stand a chance of seeing him with my frame rate and my choice of turning and focusing on him. Well played to the other team. Well played. That guy, one very lucky man.
Okay. I'm on my way. I'm covering the M13 in artillery. Now wait for me, Jackson. Am I gonna hear Antiques Roadshow?
I'm shooting everything I can at this Panther 3.
Oh my god, I actually hit something doing that? Oh! What?
Crap, I just ran into a tree.
Did you guys just...
Come on!
Uh...
I'm wrecking right now. Bring it!
Guys.
I saw what you did.
What happened?
I shot down a plane. Without even aiming. He just flew right over me.